Welcome back to Naruto Special anime review special number 12. Yep, 12. This will be the second light novel of the current series of light novels published for the Boruto franchise. We have Sasuke story, Star Pupil. Yes, because of the book focused on Sasuke, guess who's here? Orochimaru. It only appears only for like one chapter, which that's a surprise, especially since he appeared as a supporting character in the last Sasuke light novel. And surprisingly, despite the fact that Sasuke is in the story, he's only in about half the story, and then he disappears briefly, and he comes back. Mostly put, now this thing starts off basically with Konohamaru. Yep, Konohamaru. He's on a train, probably back from a mission, and there's an explosion happening in the back car. And he sees somebody put out the flames. It's Sasuke. Yeah, it's explained later on he actually had this ability from somebody he met previously. Presumably, this is a nod to the previous Sasuke light novel, which was adapted to a TV show. Which there was two clansmen who were similar to the Uchiha clan, who went to this land of death. Basically, it's very like a toxic area that the clan was forced to live in. And I love the fact that the writer himself, Juan Isca, basically had a nod to that, which that was fantastic. I love the fact we had a nod to that story. Yep. I don't think he wrote that story. I think it was somebody else that wrote that one. I do own it. Yep. So, and during the course of the battle, Konohamaru's injured. Yes, Konohamaru's injured. And then Team 7 goes to the hospital, and, well, you're probably thinking, wow, this scenario sounds familiar. Well, a teacher is basically helping the hospital for a few weeks. And you have a substitute coming in. Like, this sounds very familiar. Why, it's similar to how they introduced Captain Yamato and Sai to the franchise in part 2 in the course Naruto Shippuden. Very similar. The difference is that in the case of Kakashi couldn't move because of the Shuriken, Konohamaru has got light paralysis. This is very similar. Yes, very similar. The only difference is that we have an established character taking over as the sensei. Unlike in the case of Yamato, where he was a fresh new character. Of course, Sasuke basically is brought in to be a teacher. Of course, he doesn't teach things. He does know he's not that good of a teacher. There's no mention of the fact that he's still missing one arm. Sakura is mentioned a few times in this book. Heck, we have a brief appearance by Hinata Hinamori. Like, interesting. The way it's written almost seems like this could be like an episode of like a brief story arc for the actual anime. Which it kind of is written that way. Which I don't mind that at all. Not really, no. And it turns out on the train there was actually an idol on board named Lily Himaneo, who turns out they later on find out she actually from an island that's associated with the land of water. Who the current Mazakage, Chojuro, has been trying to reconcile some past, let's just say, past bad feelings between them and the land of water. Okay. And turns out she's been idle for 3 years. And it also turns out, though, Himawari is a big fan of hers. Which, there was missed opportunity in this book. When I finished reading the book, I'm like, why didn't Boruto introduce her to his sister? Especially since he basically described her as being cute. I would figure, though, that Naruto would do that as a favor to his sister because he's just a big fan of this idol. But no, complete missed opportunity there. I'm not really sure why the heck that the writer couldn't do that. It's like, I mean, that's coming quite strange with this book. You have Himawari, great character, and she briefly appears for like one chapter, along with Hinata for like 2 pages. And I'm like, really? You have the sister of the main character of this generation, and you have her briefly appear, and of course she mentions she's a fan of the idol, and you don't have her meet her idol? What is wrong with you, writer? Such a missed opportunity. So she later on, just complete random, just finds him on the street because the explosion is connected to her, and she wants to hire them. And apparently she did not want to go through the Hokage Office because of connection to this particular isolationist group that she wanted nothing to do with. She wanted to do her own thing. That was the simple gist of it. So she does know basically who these people are. Boruto, the son of Hokage, with the blood of a Hyuga in his lands. Very rare someone brings the fact that Hinata is his mother. Because That's something quite strange. I mean, they bring up constantly in the series that his father is Naruto Uzumaki, the star of the franchise. But they very rarely bring up the fact that his mother is Hinata. And of course, they bring up in here about Sasuke being Sadara's father, which everybody knew that. And though in the case of Sakura being, of course, being mentioned about being Sadara's mother, and of course being a student of the Fifth Hokage, that portion is not rarely brought up very much in this franchise. Of course, they still keep the fact, they still bring up constantly that Sakura and Sasuke are in fact her parents, which a lot of people basically. Now I should point out something about Sasuke and Sakura. Sakura and Sasuke voted by far one of the worst anime couples ever in the history of anime, because, well, the pairing felt complete at random, that these two just had to hook up with each other because Sakura had a thing for Sasuke. In the case of Naruto Hinata, this was gradually developed over the course of several years. Of course, that will have build up to it. This felt complete random and felt one-sided. Though at least they got an awesome daughter out of it, and she's a great character. I mean, I haven't heard any complaints about Sadara. It just basically, her parents, basically, they're hooking up, basically, I've heard a lot of complaints about. So, they want to have Boruto use a transformation jutsu to transform to be Lily for this concert in what they describe as the Hidden Least version of the Tokyo Dome, which they mentioned thing can hold about 50,000 people. Like, okay, that sounds a lot like the Tokyo Dome or Madison Square Garden, which not a bad idea to do because, well, this is a story written by someone who's from Japan, so they probably want to get someplace big that's a dome. So the Tokyo Dome is probably an obvious analog for the Konoha Dome. And they have the concert, and then Sasuke shows up. Yes, Sasuke shows up during the concert because of some ruckus, and he suspends the concert. Now, I keep thinking, though, like, how the heck does Sasuke have the authority to suspend a concert? I mean, they mention his position is that, oh yeah, he's a criminal on probation. Despite the fact he actually got a pardon by the previous Hokage, Kakashi. Yep. Yeah, they don't bring up the fact that he's actually been pardoned. They say he's on probation, but they don't really give exactly the reason. Now, the other title that they don't mention here, what they do mention in the actual main series, is that he's referred to as the Shadow Hokage, somebody who operates behind the scenes and does like some side stuff for Naruto and goes on official missions. And my guess is also the reason why that people recognize his authority, because it's Sasuke Uchiha. And also he's the head of what little is of the Uchiha clan. So he does have some authority, and the fact that he's, because of one of his closest friends is the Hokage. And the fact is his daughter just happened to be part of the current generation Team 7. That's my personal reasoning of how the heck got his authority, because I was reading, it's like, how the heck does Sasuke have the authority? I get maybe someone like Shikamaru because he's the advisor, or Sai because he's the head of the Ambu Black Ops, because they mentioned that in the recent episode. But Sasuke? I'm like, what position does he have? My guess, because he gets his pull with Naruto. Surprisingly, Naruto himself does not appear in this story, which, yeah, that's something unusual because it's not his generation. He doesn't really need to appear very much, so focus on Sasuke, which is great. I love the fact we have focus on Sasuke here. So, after talking to her, interrogating Lily, and they do in fact set a trap, they have a big battle toward the last couple chapters of this book with the isolation group, and they do take him out. They do have him all arrested. Oh yeah, and by the way, the leader of this group happened to be Lily's own father. Excuse me. And then the end of the story goes, like, they capture everybody, and then they go, and then basically Lily goes off on her own, which that was kind of wrong in my opinion. That she should have met Himawari, who is a big fan of hers. Boruto is probably not a really big fan of hers. Anyways, yes. So, this book is just really good. And I do recommend people who are fans of the Naruto franchise. If you're a fan of Sasuke, I do recommend checking this story because this book is just really good. And Sasuke himself goes up on his own to do another mission for the village. And of course, Naruto mentioned being a teacher. He says, "Sure," so I'll become stronger. And of course, Sadara basically just hugs on his coat. And there's a joke at the very end of the book. It's like, "Hey, Dad, you got some mom's lipstick on you." So he's like wiping it off. It's like, and it's just, I'm just kidding with you. Mom never wears lipstick. I thought that was so funny, and that is indeed true. Sakura has never worn lipstick in the franchise. I thought was a funny joke on the fact of the writer. And he goes up his merry way. And this book is just really good. I give this book a 10 out of 10. It's a great story. It's not that long of a story, surprisingly. Yeah, nothing unusual for this franchise to do this, where the books are not very long. This book is only like 146 pages, so it wouldn't take me very long. I mean, I got through a lot of this book last night. This book is just so good. And the pacing goes by pretty quickly, this book, over the course of this book. And you get a lot of story told in just 146 pages, which is good. That's always fantastic when it comes to books like this. Now, there technically is one more book that's been released over here, and that's Shikamaru. Now, yes, I do know about the Steam Ninja Scrolls book, which was adapted for a few episodes in the anime. Surprisingly, that book has not been released here. Yeah, there's actually others, believe it or not, that are part of this kind of series in a way. There's the Roshinden, which is one for Kakashi, which I believe this one is focused on Kakashi. I don't think Shikamaru. I'm not sure who it's focused on. The Sasuke one, where it's a team up between him and his wife Sakura, which that would be quite interesting. Yep. But otherwise, though, yeah, great book, and can't wait to discuss the Shikamaru book, which is kind of surprising, the fact that Shikamaru's got a second book. I mean, Naruto's got a book focused on him, at least in the case in that one. He appeared for only about 2 chapters book. This one, for Sasuke's story, he appears for a good chunk of this book. Like, at least for someone who appears in the cover, at least he appears more than just a chapter or two. He appears almost the entire book. I think he's absent for just brief, 1 chapter, and I think that's it. But fantastic book. Highly recommend to people who are fans of the franchise. And, of course, people are fans of Sasuke. And, of course, Sadara. Though I should point out, though, Sadara does not wear this outfit in the anime. Sasuke, he does wear this outfit. This one for Sadara, no, she wears an outfit similar to what her mother wore in part 2 of the series. Yep, so yeah, that's it for particular review. Stay tuned, possibly for a comment corner later on today. And a review of my friend Edgar and I, we talk about AEW Double or Nothing. Which, that's going to be quite interesting to talk about that one, because that was a fun pay-per-view to watch. I'll watch on replay on YouTube. Yep, but see you in the next video. Bye.